Welcome to the well-equipped kitchen and our first in our series on Chinese cooking and Chinese cuisine. Starting here on the well-equipped kitchen so that we can learn about Chinese kitchenware and cooking equipment. We're also going to learn about Chinese serveware, dishes, tableware. We're also going to learn about pantry ingredients as well. Chinese cooking tools, the most well known of them as these right here. These are woks, as you can see here. These woks are made by Atlas Spinning Co. This one's been in our family for years and years. It used to sit under the cabinet, and it sat with its wok ring and its lid, which has gone missing. For the life of me, I don't know what happened to it. The lid has gone missing. The lid had a bamboo handle, and it was a domed cover. But they're easy to find replacements for them, especially at a restaurant supply store. These woks are designed, being that they are made by Atlas Spinning Co. which was a company in South San Francisco. The handle comes off. It's a screw-on handle with an eye bolt, which allows this wok to be hung on a hook, so you can hang it in your kitchen. This wok is a round bottom wok, and it sits on a ring. Pull the burner out in a second here. But this sits on the ring, and this ring holds it, the round thing that sits on the burner. First, pull that one out of the way. To get it even closer to the burner, you can turn this ring upside down and use it that way. And when turned upside down, it will be closer to the burner. If you own an actual wok burner itself, then you won't need the ring and you proceed as such. Also, I'd like to show you, I'm going to pull out the portable burner here. It's not on, I'm just going to... This works on this Japanese burner. The flames get really close to the burner, so you could use a portable burner like this. And some burners on a normal gas stove will have a ring that's reversible, and then when it's turned upside down, it can hold a wok. Some burners, when you take the ring out, you can nestle the wok right in there. And if you own a French flat cup diffus, which is a French piano top, it's a flat top cooking surface that has rings. Center rings can be removed and you can have a hole that'll fit the wok. Now this is the round bottom wok. Most common for our Western use would be this flat bottom model here. It is flat on the bottom, but it is rounded up the sides. This will fit on any burner, including electric, and works wonders. These woks are made out of carbon steel. They also make woks out of cast iron. Cast iron is a thin cast iron, so it will break if you're not careful. I have seen that happen. I like these carbon steel woks. And the seasoning method here, what you're going to do, first thing to do if you buy a new carbon steel wok, not one that's used, you're going to bring it home and wash it in the sink. And then take the wooden handle off. So you're left with this here. Going to get some high temperature vegetable oil. Avocado or grapeseed oil is the best. Peanut oil would also work. Peanut oil has a flavor. Avocado or grapeseed oil is the best. For the avocado oil, the temperature smoke point is 500 degrees. So set your oven to 500 degrees. If you're using another oil, set the oven temperature to the smoke point of that specific oil. Take the oil, put a pool of it in here. If there's any rust spots, let's say you haven't used it in a while and there's rust spots, a little pool of oil and a little bit of table salt and a piece of paper towel and fold it up. You can scrub out the rust spots, then rinse it, then wipe it out. You're going to put a pool of oil in here and take 1 wad of paper toweling and wipe the oil all around the surfaces so it's an even coating. Discard that paper toweling in the trash, and then take a second wad of paper toweling and wipe out all the excess oil so there's a thin layer of oil on the surface. Place this in the oven. You can do 2 at a time. And it can be placed in the oven while the oven is preheating. It doesn't need to be at temperature. And let the pans bake for an hour. After the oven reaches temperature, set a timer for an hour and let them bake for an hour. Then let them completely cool in the oven, and you will start to get a black layer on here because the oil carbonizes on this, it polymerizes on the surface. And every time you cook in these, they will get more and more seasoned and black. As you can see, this one here has more seasoning on it. There's a little bit of more lighter color in the middle from the scrubbing. And that is your wok. To clean the woks, I have 2 tools here. This is the most traditional tool, which is a bamboo wok brush. As you can see here, it's made out of bamboo. It scrubs out. You don't want to be too heavy-handed when you're scrubbing. You want to do a real light job in here. Because what happens is this will scrub out the detritus that generated from stir fry. The other brush that also works well is a dedicated brush like this. It's got similar bristles to what's on professional wok brushes that look like this, but it's a larger brush head and works as well. I have this one specific just for woks, for scrubbing it out. And you want to be real light-handed when you're doing it. You don't want to be too heavy-handed because you don't want to remove your layer of seasoning. Put the handle back on the wok here. If the wok has a plastic handle, and some carbon steel woks have a plastic handle, if the handle can be removed from the wok, do so. If the handle cannot be removed, you'll have to do stovetop seasoning, which is a different process where this is going to go onto the stove. Because you don't want to, some procedures call for wrapping the handles, but if you can't remove the handle, then it's best to do it on the stove. And with the stove, you're going to do the same process with a little, but just place it on the stove and heat it. And it's just a different process. The oven baking method is the best method to use. I'm going to pull this back up here and we'll have these display here. You're going to need wok tools to work in the wok. The most traditional piece of cooking equipment for a wok, the wok tool that's most traditional, is the wok ladle. I got this all the way in Amsterdam when I was on a trip there for the first time. Just because I saw it and it was a wok tool I didn't have, and it's one of the best cooking tools because they use it to grab ingredients, to measure out oil. You can mix ingredients inside, and it's the most common item in a Chinese kitchen to do the stir fry, is they'll use it upside down to toss ingredients. And it comes in different sizes. That's a professional hand-hammered one, as you can see here. These other ones are a little different. Some of them are hand-hammered, all the way down to a little one. It's also great for serving Chinese soups as well. Next here is the wok spatula, also known as a wok shovel. This is also used not as commonly as this, but they use them both. And there is a cheater trick using 2 wok spatulas for doing things like chow mein or other noodles, or even fried rice. If your wok is sturdy on the burner, you can go like this to toss ingredients. Wok shovel, as you can see, 2 of these are hand hammered. They're wonderful tools. When you're flipping items in a wok, this comes very handy. They also come in smaller shovels as well. The other tool is a spider. And this is the spider that I like. That has a metal bowl, and it's a stainless steel bowl. This one is all stainless. This one has a little plastic handle on it. This is an old Joyce Chen model. It's so old that it's cracked here, but it still works, and I like it. This is a larger professional model here. Commonly you'll see the spider that's made out of bamboo. The handle is bamboo, and then it has the wire basket. I like this metal one better. And great for when you're deep frying in a wok, or even deep frying in another vessel, because you can do deep frying in a wok. Next we have slightly larger spider here. This is a larger spider here, and this is great for doing, let's say you're dealing with noodles or dumplings and you're blanching them in a wok full of water, or you're doing frying and you want to pull a lot out at one time. This is great. This is a large one, as you can see here, and somebody has written markings on it, Chinese words I can't read. The other spider is this one here, which is gigantic. I have it sitting over a pot here because you're going to want a pot sitting on a trivet as part of your wok setup, because when you're preparing recipes, often you need a place to drain. Let's say you stir-fried your meat and you want to dump it off of its oil, you can slide it right in there. And when you're preparing eggs for fried rice, you will stir-fry them and then you will dump them through the strainer. And when I show you how to do fried rice later on in this series, it's important to have this set up because we're going to be using the resulting oil that's in the bottom for our fried rice. And these ones are made out of stainless steel with the wooden handle. And they're wonderful. The next tool you're going to need is a steamer. This is the bamboo steamer setup. They also make metal steamers with a steamer pot, but this is the best. Fits right in the wok. I'm going to pull it off. It does not need a rack. If you're going to be steaming something on a plate, you can set up a rack in here and then use a wok lid, but this does not need a rack. And the steamer works just like so. You have your water in the bottom. These can also be placed onto a saucepan and work as a steamer in that way. Also, when steaming things like Chinese sausages or steaming a piece of ham for a recipe, you can also use a collapsible steamer. Fits in there, and the collapsible steamer has the feet, so it sits above. You're just going to need a Chinese wok lid, or you could even flip another wok on top. If you had one large enough, you could flip it on top. And that works as a steamer as well. Last but not least, cooking chopsticks. These are real cooking chopsticks. What makes cooking chopsticks so valuable? You can turn foods when they're being fried or being poached or boiled. This is also used as a temperature probe. When you're deep frying, you place the end in here, and you will see the end bubbling from the bottom of the skewer. That's why this end is more dark, because it's been in the oil so many times, and when it's bubbling at the end, that means your wok is hot and ready to deep fry or shallow fry, depending on what you're doing. And that's a wok chopstick set. There are other chopsticks you'll be using, but not in the wok. When we come back, we're going to talk about a second round of cooking equipment. and talk about cleavers. Welcome back to the well-equipped kitchen and our Chinese equipment demystified episode. We're also going to need some Western equipment as well. That Western bit of equipment, you're going to want a stock pot, and this is for making Chinese soup stock and other soups. You're also going to want a saucepan, and I recommend one like this, one that fits your collapsible steamer. So when you need to prepare pieces like Chinese ham or Chinese sausages, they can be quickly steamed without having to get out your bamboo steamer and set up the wok. So you can do your prep ahead of time. I do recommend that. And also when you need to cook sauces that they're going to be cooked ahead of time, it's good to have a saucepan. I also recommend this pot like this as a blanching basket for blanching vegetables, blanching noodles. Also in the wok for blanching noodles, this fry basket also works very well, and this has a clip on it, so it will sit. Doesn't work on this pot, but it will sit on the edge. It works for the wok for using it for blanching noodles. If you have to blanch a lot of noodles, that works. Also going to want a small saucepan. This is for hot oil. When you're doing sizzling hot oil, this is the ideal. It's a great way to do it, and then you can bring it to the table, pour the sizzling oil onto whatever you're preparing. You're also going to want a small skillet if you need to roast some nuts or you want to toast Sichuan peppercorns before grinding them or other spices. You're going to want a small skillet like this. If you need to crush spices, this will work wonders because it's heavy and spices can be crushed. Two other cooking implements. You're going to want clay pots. These are Chinese sand pots. They are glazed on the inside. When you buy them, you need to purchase them. You purchase them and soak them in water 24 hours in a bucket. This is the large size and this is the small size. These are perfect tools. Very important, when using these, you need to use a heat diffuser on the bottom. No matter what cooking surface, I would recommend using a heat diffuser just so the heat is very even underneath. Especially on a gas burner, the heat needs to be very even underneath on these. That's used for sand pot cooking. You can make soup in there, you can also serve in there. I'm going to show you how to use the sand pot to cook sticky rice later on in this series. Talked about cooking chopsticks. There are smaller chopsticks that can also be used for cooking. These are made of bamboo. Just don't get the other end, which has decoration on it, into the hot oil. And you're going to want chopsticks just for general mixing purposes. And a good set of restaurant plastic chopsticks works wonders. Second most important tool to a wok is the cleaver. I have 3 of them here. This one here, I found this at a thrift store at the Salvation Army for $5. Took it home, redid the blade edge and got it super sharp. And then a friend of mine who I went to culinary school with, she translated the markings. This means it came from communist Red China. This is a great wok. This is good for meat because of its heft. This is good for meat. Good all-purpose cleaver, great for meat. This is a Western style Henkel's cleaver. Also does good all-purpose cleaver, but also great for meat because of its heft and that the blade is built into the handle, the tang. And this is also great for meat. The best vegetable cleaver is this one right here. This is made by Winco. It's super sharp. This shreds cabbage and cuts thin vegetables and perfect cuts every time. very easily. Also, any of these great for smashing ginger and garlic to release the flavors, and bruising lemongrass if you're making a Chinese dish that contains lemongrass. It's very fibrous, so it has to be bruised. And that's your Chinese cleaver. Very easy to use once you learn how to use it. And we're going to look here. You're going to place your fingers like this. The thumb in the back is in the back of whatever you're cutting. And then the knuckle rests against the cleaver face like this, the side. And then you just chop like so. If you're mincing garlic, you'll hold up here. And when you're cutting meats, like jointing a chicken wing, you put firm pressure here with a mallet, or if you have enough heft on your own to cut through. But you can always use a mallet if you're not strong enough to just cut through it. Just use a rubber kitchen mallet. Don't use a hammer. Make sure it's a rubber mallet. Now it also works good on this one. I wouldn't use a mallet here. This one is specifically I have for vegetable work. And also it's good because it can get under and you can slide a whole bunch of vegetables. When we come back, we're going to look at Chinese serveware and other things that you need to have when you're cooking Chinese food. And very important, through all of the stuff that you see here, with the exception of the pantry ingredients, all the Chinese equipment you see is optional. You can do everything with Western style cookware. You can make your stir fry in a skillet and not use a wok. The only difference cooking stir fries in a skillet, you won't get what they call wok hay, which comes from the seasoning of the wok itself. And you get what translates to the breadth of a wok. That's the only thing you're not going to get from working with Western kitchen equipment. But it's all optional. The spider that I showed you, there is no Western equivalent to a spider, so that is something you will need to invest in. Especially if you're doing things like deep frying, you're going to want one. So when we come back, we're going to look at Chinese tableware. This is Famille Rose China, also known as Rose Medallion China. This is a vegetable dish from the 1800s, probably late 1800s. As you can see, it's hand painted. It has no markings on the back, but you can tell that it's very old. Also, it has been repaired. And repaired very well, as you can see. I also have a thin coffee cup and saucer, also made out of Rose Medallion China. This is early 20th century, as is this teacup and saucer here. A little spoon. And this platter, which is a little later on in the period. This is really high-end export china that was made and exported. As you can see, this dish here has been repaired. For a Chinese and Japanese person, the repair, and I'll turn it over here and showcase the big crack. The cracks here. They don't care about the crack. They know how many hours it took to construct this piece and how many painstaking hours it took to paint the piece. And they're beautiful, detailed scenes when you look at them. Butterflies and the roses, of course, that you see in all the Famille Rose or Rose Medallion china. Those are display pieces, though occasionally I will serve in this one because it's safe to do so. those technically, if you, not this one because it's cracked, but technically, if it's in good working order and no cracks, you can serve it. That is the most famous of all the china that came out of China. What's interesting about this rose medallion china, since I own this, if you owned a piece of rose medallion china and you had it in your suitcase and you went to Hong Kong or any other place in China and you left it, and when you leave China and it's still in your bag, you have technically committed a crime. This china can no longer leave China. So when it goes back to Hong Kong, that's where it stays. They're trying to bring it all back, and it's beautiful stuff. I have a little collection of it.